11 WWE superstars who served in the military. Over the years, WWE has had an excellent relationship with the United States Armed Forces. WWE former CEO and owner Vince McMahon is an outspoken supporter of the military. In fact, every year the company holds its annual tribute to the troops in an effort to show appreciation for the fighting men and women who serve. WWE has continued to push its connection with the military, including adding several instances of promoting the soldiers and veterans into storylines that emphasize their military careers. While some wrestlers, such as Lacey Evans, tried to focus on a character outside of her military experience, others, including Jackson Ryker, brought the personality directly into their WWE personas. This has been true throughout the years. From Sergeant Slaughter using every ounce of military experience in his gimmick to Bobby Lashley, who you might only know he served if listening to out-of-character interviews. Despite the differences, these men and women mostly served their countries with honor. One, Montez Ford. It might seem hard to believe from a character with a gimmick like Montez Ford, but he was a former member of the U.S. military. In WWE, he is part of the Street Profits, using catchphrases like "We want the smoke" and bringing out red drink cups when they enter the arena for their matches. Before his WWE career, Montez Ford was part of his high school's JROTC program, and when he graduated, he enlisted in the Marine Corps. Ford served his country from 2008 to 2012. His job included handling defense travel system plans for his battalion. 2. Corporal Kirchner. Corporal Kirchner was another WWE superstar who had his gimmick include plenty of references to his military career. Kirchner worked in WWE in the 80s and worked originally as R.T. Reynolds until 1986 when he took on the military persona of Corporal Kirchner. Kirchner ended up winning a flag match against Nikolai Volkov at WrestleMania 2. Corporal Kirchner was a paratrooper with the elite 82nd Airborne Division out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He never went into battle before leaving the military and joining WWE. He died on 2 December 2021. Three, Jackson Ryker. Ryker kicked off his wrestling career in 2001 while still in the military. The former Lance Corporal used his weekend off time to compete in independent promotions while stationed at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. Ryker originally made his name in TNA, where he worked as gunner and was part of Immortal, winning the TV title and tag team title before leaving for WWE NXT. In NXT, he ended up forming the Forgotten Sons faction, with the gimmick as former military veterans whose country turned its back on them. Some controversy caused WWE to drop the gimmick, but Ryker returned in 2021 as a lackey for Elias before moving back into singles action and relying on his military past again. Before his wrestling career, Ryker served in the U.S. Marine Corps as a machine gunner during the war in Iraq. Before fighting in the wrestling ring, Jackson Ryker fought in a real war with the United States Marines. The 39-year-old enlisted in the U.S. Marines in 2002, 2 years after his graduation. Four, Steven Cutler. Steven Cutler started his in-ring career with WWE in the NXT brand. He worked a lot with a young Baron Corbin, losing almost every time before he got a chance to shine as the Forgotten Sons in 2018 with Wesley Blake and Jackson Ryker. The Forgotten Sons gimmick was that they were veterans who came back home and society overlooked them. Cutler brought experience to the gimmick as he served as a machine gunner 0331 Infantry with 2nd Battalion 8th Marines Weapons Company. He enlisted from 2007 to 2011 and did 2 tours of Afghanistan. He was once recorded saying, "I served at a time when the war in Iraq was transitioning back to Afghanistan. My time in the service is everything that I wanted to get out of it. I love being on the front line. I know it sounds crazy, but why serve this country and not want to fight?"
5. Zeb Coulter. Zeb Coulter worked as a territories star named Dirty Dutch Mantle before he came to WWE and served as a manager for men like Cesaro and Jack Swagger. However, before he showed up in professional wrestling, Coulter was a member of the U.S. Army's 25th Infantry Division. Coulter is a Vietnam War veteran. Coulter served in Vietnam for a year before he came back home and started his wrestling career. While most of his career was as a rough Southern brawler, WWE used his military experience as part of his gimmick with the Real Americans. 6. Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans has only been wrestling since 2014 and is already headlining pay-per-views. WWE's Sassy Southern Belle was recently involved in a storyline with Becky Lynch, one of WWE's top stars. The 29-year-old Georgia native is an intimidating presence in the ring and is known for her deadly right hand. At 19 years of age, Evans joined the United States Marine Corps. The 5'8" WWE star was a military police officer who served for 5 years. It was during this time that she discovered pro wrestling. A fellow Marine, who was a promoter on the side, booked her in a match on an indie show, and the rest is history. 7. Randy Orton. Knoxville, Tennessee's Randy Orton began his wrestling journey back in 2000. Since that time, he was gone on to become one of professional wrestling's biggest attractions. The 39-year-old has held a version of the WWE World Championship an impressive 13 times and counting. The third-generation pro has also headlined several pay-per-view events throughout the course of what's sure to be a Hall of Fame career. After high school, Orton enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. However, the former WWE champ had a rough go of it in the military. He had a couple of unauthorized absences on his record and disobeyed an order. His conduct eventually led to his premature dismissal. 8. Kevin Nash. At 6'10", Detroit, Michigan's Kevin Nash was one of wrestling's biggest stars in the 1990s, both literally and figuratively. The now 60-year-old originally got his big break in WWE using the ring name Diesel. As Diesel, Nash was even able to capture the WWE Championship. He would later sign with WCW and become a founding member of the New World Order, one of the most successful factions of all time. Before the big man became wrestling royalty, he served in the 202nd Military Police Company. Nash had some success during his enlistment and worked his way up to the rank of specialist. 9. Conan. Conan is a professional wrestler who was born in Santiago de Cuba. In the early 90s he wrestled for WWE under the ring name Max Moon. He had little success during his stint with World Wrestling Entertainment, but went on to make a name for himself in World Championship Wrestling and was an even bigger star in Mexico. These days, the 55-year-old works for Major League Wrestling and appeared in 2021 for it. The wrestling star ran into some legal trouble in his youth and was forced to choose between either the military or prison. He opted to join the United States Navy and even served on one of the ships that were bombed in Beirut, back in 1983. 10. Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley has had success as both a professional wrestler and a mixed martial artist. The powerhouse out of Junction City, Kansas has had plenty of good fortune during his stints with WWE. He is a 2-time ECW World Champion, a former United States Champion, and a 2-time Intercontinental Champ as well. He finally won the WWE Championship in 2021. The 43-year-old WWE star comes from a military background. His father was a former U.S. Army drill sergeant. Lashley would follow in his dad's footsteps and enlist in the Army. During his tour, he even won a gold medal in freestyle wrestling at an event hosted by the International Military Sports Council. Lashley comes from a military background. His father was an Army drill sergeant for 24 years, and his uncle fought in the Vietnam War. One of his three sisters also served in the United States Air Force. The WWE Champion's military service lasted for 3 years.
He then kicked off his pro wrestling career, joining WWE in 2005. During his first WWE run, Lashley won the United States Championship and the EC Championship twice before leaving in 2008. Swerve Scott. Former WWE NXT North American Champion Isaiah Swerve Scott comes from a military background. His father was a sergeant first-class cook in the United States Army. The NXT superstar lived his first 7 years in Frankfurt, Germany, where his dad served at a military base. Following the return to the United States, Scott excelled in sports in high school. After graduating, the 30-year-old decided to follow in his father's footsteps and enlisted in the Army. Scott served as a signal communications specialist in the United States Army. He began his pro wrestling training during his military service and began competing on the independent scene occasionally. Scott left the Army after 8 years of service and focused all his attention on his pro wrestling career. The former indie star rose to prominence on the Black and Gold brand, becoming the NXT North American Champion and forming Hit Row with Top Dollar, Ashanti the Aidenas, and B-Fab. In 2019, the 30-year-old signed with WWE and made his NXT debut. Later that same year, Scott challenged Roderick Strong for the North American Championship but came up short. He also lost a Cruiserweight Championship match against Angel Garza.